Come here.
Down here.
Come here.
To videoing. We're just going to give you an update on what we've done, sort of a picture of what we're going to be doing, and just some odds and ends. First of all, the engine is through. It's dressed out pretty much. No carburetors on it, no spark plug wires, etc. But the pump, the alternator, the belts are loose, but they're on it. Manifolds are on it. Proper overspray. I hope it's the right color. 69s for an odd color. Not light Ford blue, not Ford corporate blue. But anyway, it's what it is. Anyway, we're through with that. Okay, ready? All right. We're moving on to little things now. We've got the car welded. I do not have the welds dressed nor sealed, so I'm not going to show you a lot of detail because I'm such a great welder. It would embarrass a lot of people, but actually it's the opposite of that. But I'll dress them, seal them, and we'll start down the path of getting the car ready for paint. I will point out though that one of the things to consider is the filler right here between the quarter panel and the roof. There's a welded, sunken, channeled seam right in here, spot welded, and it's spot welded to a brace underneath. So you got to kind of get that right, and everything else sort of works. I mean, it works off of that. And from the factory, they use lead. I may have mentioned that before. They use lead, and I believe they use lead, A, because it was poisonous, and 2, because it didn't shrink. You get Bondo or plastic filler, it will shrink over time. So, and you'll see there's some plastic filler on this, but the majority of this is a metal, I wouldn't say Bondo kind of material, but it's a metal filler. It's not a 2-part, it's a 1-part. It's called lab metal. And once you pull it out of the can, when air hits it, it starts getting hard very quickly. It doesn't shrink. That's the important part. So everything other than this underneath is this stuff. And it hopefully in 3 or 4 years, as this cures out, you won't see the seam. And you do see it on some cars. But original ones were lead. And I still think you can do lead, but I don't really want to learn lead. It seems so hot to me. Anyway, so we're working on those. The original, I don't see it. The car was hit pretty hard right here in the corner, and that ruined this. It messed this up. It messed this one up too. Well, the one they replaced it with back in the, I don't know, 70s, 80s, prehistoric times, was a fiberglass one. And whereas it probably looked okay, I knew it was fiberglass, so I didn't want to use it. This is a Daniel Carpenter replacement, and it's really pretty good. When I compare it to this one, which was on the side not hit, and I stripped it down and primed it. And it's, I mean, they're almost, well, they're mirror image, of course, but the quality of this one is just as good as that one, or that one's just as good as this one. So anyway, we're doing that. Make sure everything's lining up, and it does line up. There's a little discrepancy, probably 1/8 of an inch, but whatever. It's as good as it was when it was new. So we're working on that. It's all welded in. There's a ton of welds here. I'll tell you, I didn't even want to count them. I got about 500 or 600, and I quit because it was like reliving a nightmare. But there's a lot of welds getting this together, and there's a lot of different welds in a lot of different places. And they're not the not pinch welds, not the spot welds, because they had a machine that would do them very quickly. These are all plug welds, which means you got to drill a pilot hole, and then you got to take a Blair spot weld cutter and drill a hole through the top layer or the top 2 layers, and then you got to come in with a MIG welder and fill it in. So it's time consuming, but I got it all done, and I believe it's pretty strong. So I'm going to dress the welds out, fill them in, seal them, and we'll be ready with the body. The front, now I'm moving on over here. The front extensions, they had like 3 layers of paint on them. So I used some metal stripper, paint stripper, got that all off of them.
What are you working on?
Front fender extension. Stripping all the old paint off of it. Probably more than I should do, but use paint stripper, and then I use some 180 to strip it. Headlight buckets are kind of hard to get to. You can see right in there. I won't be able to do with those, so I'll hit those with the bead blaster. Sometimes the bead blaster can change the contours of the pot metal. So can this, but I can control this. But anyway, got all the primer off of it. Evidently the previous store liked this primer. Bead blasted in the headlight buckets to clean up that, because there's no way you can clean all that up. And then I primed them. Tab's not broken off. That's a good thing. This one right here has a little crack in it, but I've used some JB Weld on the back side of it. Although it's not loose and it's not broken, there's a crack. So I used some JB Weld on the back of it to strengthen it. But these are ready to go on, or ready to be primed and painted again. As you can see, the side scoops have not been, and you can just tell by looking at it. I mean, I look at reflections, and maybe you can see reflections in that, but you can tell it's just way too much paint on these. And after a while, you lose some definition, and you lose just some of the lines that's on it. But anyway, I'll take all the paint off each one of these. I'd like to point out something. You think, and these have a, maybe I get the right one here. Okay, so in the back, this is a scoop. And when it was new, it looked like it was some sort of mesh to keep large animals from going through to cool the rear brakes. It's not. It's blank. And for the life of me, I thought when I was looking at these, they're plastic. No, they're metal. Everything Ford did back then was metal. Now this just added weight. These are metal. I can kind of understand that. Of course, these are metal. I can understand that. These weigh about 11 pounds a piece. That's 22 pounds. That's a pound, 25 pounds. These back here are 9 pounds. The ones on 9 pounds a piece. All today would be made out of fiberglass or injection molded something. Even the little things that could have been plastic. Anyway, one more thing on the weight thing. The hood has the same excess paint problem that a lot of the other things had on the car. So, I just sort of turned my attention to the hood. No rust in the hood, which is good. But I'll strip it down and get the lines back, get the creases a little more crisper, you would say. So I pulled the scoop off. Now I think that this is an original scoop. It's got original part numbers underneath. It's got some paint. I think it's been painted underneath. But you never know what the history is here. It's got the turn signals installed here. They're laying over there on the bench. So, but you look here, holes are placed. Holes are all the same size except this one. This one's larger. Don't know why. You come back here and you see the access holes for the turn signal indicators, which are in the back of the scoop. And they look like they've been cut by a blind person. I don't understand. I know a lot of this stuff was done on the assembly line. I don't believe they had separate hoods for scoops and hoods for non-scoops. I do know, or I think, they may have actually cut the shaker scoop on the 70s on the assembly line or on a niche line off of it. But anyway, I don't know if this is right or not. If this is the character of the work, and it looks like two people did it because this one looks pretty good. This one looks kind of like maybe New Zealand. I'm not sure. But anyway, it all fits. It goes on, and I'm not through with it, but it'll yeah, there you go. All goes on. But I'll strip all the paint off that. We'll get it primed. Underneath of it, we'll do the same thing. We'll have that ready to go in the car. Let me see what else. Working on the tail lights. New lenses. There's some trim that goes on. That's the old tail lights. One was broken. The new tail lights are over there in box. I think it's the Daniel Carpenter part too. But they're kind of a lot of moving parts in those. You may have seen I got the bottom part of the dash with the wiring harness. Laying on the bench here, starting to work on it, starting to see what's been messed with. I don't think a lot of stuff's been done to it. I did find two wires here that were cut from the turn signal harness. Right over there, the the steering column has been restored with a new turn signal switch, and everything's ready to go there. And hopefully the wires will match. But I don't know why these two were just cut. Who knows? But anyway, I don't see any more cut wires, which is a good thing. So I will sort through this. I have a wiring diagram of one of the large factory ones that I'll go through and sort of sort every wire out, and make sure the connections are good and tight and nothing's cut. But I don't see any more cut wires. So I'll lube it up, tighten it up, paint it, take everything out, paint it, put it back together, and have it ready to go back in the car. Anyway, working on that. Little things we're working for. You may look back and you'll see the wall of bolts is starting to deplete. The engine's all gone, pretty much. There's some little things on the engine. Some things I didn't use, like screw-in plugs and stuff like that. But we're going to get the welds dressed, and we're going to get it ready for paint. A couple of things I'm not really decided on yet is the exterior decor package had wheel trim moldings, and it had a lower piece of chrome right under the door. I like the wheel trim moldings. I don't necessarily like the piece of trim underneath the door. So I may omit that. I probably will black out the hood, give it sort of a Mach 1 look, just because that's a lot of blue out there on top of the car. And I'll probably black out the rear tail panel just to add to that. So that's our plans right now. And rather than showing you a lot of fast motion stuff of us working, or me working, I'll just give you updates and let you see it once it's done. I will point out that the family that owned this car before we bought it, and is part of our family, bought this car when it was almost new. And the lady that owned it, my wife's aunt, was 97 when we bought it, and unfortunately she passed away about 2.5 weeks ago. So we're sad about that, but it makes sort of the memorial to her in my own little way with this car a little more important. Anyway, I know her family misses her. She was sort of the leader of the whole family up there. And when we get this car finished and get it back to them, maybe a little piece of her will go too. Anyway, so that's where we stand so far. Everything's going back pretty well, and as planned. So we'll keep slugging away and see what happens. Get through the winter. I do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I had one person point out a very valid safety concern that I had overlooked in one of the first videos, and he was kind enough to point it out to me. I wish he'd have been here that day and pointed it out to me, but he did make note of it, and I've adjusted my actions since then. But if you have any comments, questions, or thoughts, let me know. I'll try to answer each one of them. Thanks a lot. I do appreciate you watching. And if you would subscribe and if you would like it, I would certainly appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.